Perfect. Okay, well, welcome, WSBU 88.3 The Buzz. My name is Owen Murphy, and I'm a music director on the station. I host Bad Luck, I host Subsonic. And today we are with the one and only Dominic Palermo. You would Dominic or
Yeah, that
how do you want to go?
works.
Yeah, well, how do you want it? I don't know because I see
I
it written
mean, it
differently.
it kind of goes both ways, and it
Yeah,
has been my whole life. See, there's Nicky people, and then there's
yeah,
Dominic people. So I kind of let it go, however it happens. So
that's fair. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
yeah, thank you
No,
for
of
having
course.
me.
So I mean, kind of to start out, my co-director couldn't be here today, but I know his first question would be, where did the name Nothing come from? That's his first question for everything.
Uh, well, I mean, we're talking like 13 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
Uh, we kind of started this thing with just like a demo tape.
yeah,
And I kind of just built it myself in a bedroom kind of thing, and didn't really plan for it to last very long. um so I was obviously like avid existential reader, especially at that point. I was reading a lot of like Sartre and
okay,
Bataille and stuff like that,
yeah,
and
yeah,
kind of thought it was like the kind of like a fuck off name, like I knew it was going to be hard to Google, and it was kind of going to get lost in the sauce, and like I kind of wanted it to be like kind of like annoying.
yeah.
And then it kind of turned on me, and looking back over the past 12 years or whatever, it's kind of really just been really difficult for me in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. So the joke was kind of on me at the end of the
yeah.
day.
Do you
But
think like if you could, would you change it then? Is that what you're thinking?
I don't know. I probably not. I don't think.
Yeah, I
I
mean, not
hate.
at this
I
point, probably.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine it any other way at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah. Definitely the joke was on me by the end for sure.
Okay. Well, then kind of going off of that, like you're saying, the first demo songs, it wasn't an EP, right? It was just the one single. It was it was
Yeah.
it was just you, right?
Yeah. It was just me by myself at first, and then
Yeah.
uh shortly after I did the demo. We kind of put together our first like run of the band,
Yeah.
which there's been quite a few
Yeah.
lineups in this band for sure.
I was gonna say, kind of going into that, how would you say the like other than just like lineup, because most bands have a lineup change at one point in their lifetime, especially if you've been around for over, like you said, 13, yeah, 13-ish years, right?
Yeah.
So then, other than that, though, how would you say that the band has sort of changed from the beginning?
I mean, drastically. And it's ever changing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like one of the things, you know, that this band has always been like a learning process for me.
yeah,
From like on all levels, all cylinders. From music to like production to just the way the industry works a bit. Like it's been like a crash course the whole entire time. So like
yeah,
I really do welcome you know that aspect of things, because I do love learning, and now looking back, I feel like well versed in a lot of things, and it's been a very DIY project from the very beginning.
yeah,
And I kind of turn all the levers on everything. So um the one thing I always wanted to accomplish with this was to never grow stagnant.
yeah,
And while it's comforting to have like some of the same people around, it does keep me on my toes a lot.
yeah,
And it also gives me like this freedom to collaborate with different friends, and keep things fresh, and I like building with people. That's like been a
Yeah.
thing with this project since the beginning, is like being able to work with these different people and let them shine through me, and me shine through them, and it just kind of keeps things ever changing. And
Yeah.
I've learned to embrace that at this point. As annoying as it can be, not being around the same people, and right when you learn the way someone moves and everything, you lose them, and it's a little sad. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's for the best, sometimes it's for the worst. And it's kind of just goes along with everything this project has always been. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like rolling with the punches,
Yeah.
and still sticking around after everything.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, I mean, you sort of mentioned it a little bit with that sort of coming into it, coming from like this sort of existentialist point of view. You kind of see the change in things as they happen. And even though, there's that emotional connection to it, you still appreciate for what it is and that sort of beauty that's inside that. Uh,
Yeah,
kind
absolutely,
of,
absolutely.
yeah, kind of going with that. I want to know because I know I know a bit of research. I know that you started out a little bit in the hardcore scene before transitioning into. I mean, a lot of people call it shoegaze, but it definitely still has some of that undertone, I would say, of like I don't know, like it feels more like grungy, maybe like it has those fingerprints on it from coming there. But where did you get the sound from? How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, I've always struggled with the 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 genre uh
Yeah,
placement of with nothing, because like I said, I try to keep things, you know, similar, but also, you know, has growth to it. And it, like I said, different members of being in this band that have inspired different sounds out of it, while we try to keep it somewhat in the same region of things. So, um, like, having Brandon in the band for a really long time, and he was like a really big Deftones, and like,
yeah,
he's a little younger than me, so he was like really into the new metal scene. And like, he introduced a lot of different sounds into what I was, originally thinking this project would be. And it kind of turned into like, help turn nothing sound into nothing sound. So, like, we had a mixture of like inspirations, like from anywhere from, like, the early shoegaze stuff, like MBV obviously, and like
yeah,
Slow Dive, and then the Ride stuff. But I would like, always tried to implicate, like, even Britpop stuff and
yeah,
into it, like Stone Roses, and like, but like obviously, like, like we were like avid like Pumpkin fans and stuff like that too. So
yeah,
like, like there's definitely like a bit of like all of that mixed together. And that's kind of just been like, what we've done at this point. Now, like, now we don't really look to like things for inspiration. It's kind of like, okay, now we know like what we want to do and what we want this to
yeah.
sound like. It's like, it's kind of turned into that. Whereas in the beginning it was like, okay, let's try to like see if we can mix these sounds together, and come up with
Yeah.
our own thing. Guess we kind of did. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a decent bit younger than you, I would say. But
Hmm.
people around my age, I see people like on Instagram and stuff referencing you guys, referencing your work a lot in the sort of in like the modern scene, but also in like what's inspiring their own sound and their own music. I think that's really cool. Like it's a cool kind of thing that you have those inspirations. Like obviously, I when you say Smashing Pumpkins, that makes a lot of sense. That kind of brings a lot of stuff together, especially with like kind of the soloing sound, if that makes sense. There's a
Hmm.
couple points where it's
Yeah.
kind of connected for me. But yeah, hearing that and hearing how that's changed that's super cool. Like again, that's one of those things that really like connects a lot of dots for me.
Yeah,
And
I mean, like, that was pretty early on, was like a pretty direct thing that we were trying to do. It was like,
yeah,
okay, like, because what Billy Corgan did in the '90s in those first
yeah,
couple albums was like, it was like kind of like our same game plan. It was kind of like, okay, we have like this deep love for like the vintage shoegaze stuff, and like,
yeah,
and even like the UK stuff and Scottish stuff, but also like the American stuff, like swirlies and stuff like
yeah,
that. like we had like a deep love for that, but like what Billy did was kind of, take that and kind of make it more modernized and like more palatable for like
Yeah.
the mass, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we thought. Like we were like, there's like a dry spell for that kind of sounds right now, and nobody was really doing it when we started playing in like
Yeah.
2010, and
Yeah.
it is for sure like it's kind of turned into like it's a whole nother, a whole nother go at it at this point. Like, you're starting to see like a lot of like people inspired by the stuff that, like us and like were and stuff we're doing at the
Yeah.
time. It's funny, it's strange to see, but like I welcome it. Like, like
Yeah.
for me, it's endearing. And when we were coming up in this, there was, like I said, there wasn't a lot of that going on. So like we didn't really have anyone to turn to. Like our old heads at that point, like nobody really fucked with us that heavy, you know what I mean? And like we didn't really
Yeah.
have anywhere to look for answers and stuff. So like, when now, like with kids come around, and like I try to be as welcoming as possible, and like
Yeah.
try to be like a good old head, because we didn't really have them, so.
Yeah. That's so cool. When you going back just a little bit, you mentioned Swirlies a minute ago, and I know that if I remember correctly, they've opened for you before, isn't that right?
Yeah, we've done well, the first time we played with Swirlies was like 2012, I think.
Oh wow, okay,
And
so like fairly early on.
yeah, we opened for them at Johnny Brenda's in Philly, which was like a crazy experience for me. Like
Yeah.
early on, like kind of accolade that I achieved, and I was like, all right, well, fuck it, we opened for Swirlies. Like, like
Yeah.
I don't care what happens now. And I hung out with Damon, and Damon was like really keen on us, which was like really surprising to me because we were pretty terrible at that point, I'm pretty sure. And we hadn't really figured it out at all. But Damon was like, uh, he said that we reminded him of My Bloody Valentine meets the Misfits, and I remember
Yeah.
thinking like, I was like, man, I couldn't think of like a better compliment from like a person, like a better person
Yeah.
than that. And yeah, we just stayed in touch from that point on, and through the years that, anytime we played Sweden, that's where Damon lives with his family, so he would always pop by our shows in Europe and stuff. And I think like around 2017, we took them out for the first time because we had
Yeah.
been getting a little bit more successful with things, and I immediately wanted to get them back on the level that they were on, because they deserve to be a gigantic band, because they are
Yeah.
literally the reason that nothing exists is
Yeah.
because of Swirlies. And
Just fantastic in general, yeah.
it took a little while, but like, like we made some runs, and like, some people got it and some people didn't. And now
Yeah.
recently doing like the slide away stuff and all that, I really feel like they've now got it again where they should
Yeah.
be. And it's really good to see that happen.
Yeah.
You know.
That's that's so cool. Like that's just such a cool thing that like I don't know, like again, I don't know exactly how many times it happens, but it is a cool thing just again from like that outside perspective to see these people that were like fairly experimental, like kind of like at their time, not even maybe experimental, but like they were doing things that no one else was doing at the time, and then inspiring these bands, and then like still continuing to be with them and continue to work with them and like build these relationships is a really cool thing to see. And kind of going off of that, I wanted you to talk about a little bit about how Slideway kind of came to be and how that bill got put together. Because I know you have other like older names on there. Like I know Scott Cortez from Astro Bright was performing as Astro Bright for the thing. There were a bunch of band like just how did that come together?
Well, again, a lot of this a lot of this spawned for, you know there's several different reasons why I decided to jump into this. I mean, one was that, um at this point, I'm pretty useless outside of music and life in general. So like, for my survival is to be playing music at this point.
Mhm.
And it gets tiring. I'm getting older, and it's getting tiring being on the road, like, 4 or 5 months out of the year.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like a good way to kind of maybe eventually avoid, having to kill myself and like have some other outlet of things, financially, but also, that didn't really work that way anyway. It was a great fest, but there wasn't really much financial gain on it. But I mean, I had it did what it was supposed to do, which was more important than anything.
Yeah.
But again, also at the same token, with music, it's like, with nothing, I'm constantly, using all my creative juices inside for nothing, and it's, managed to keep everything pretty cool for 10 years, and not
Yeah.
to do too much cringe shit. So like, it's nice to have like a break of to put like the creative side of some into something else, and not just have to be nothing at all times.
Yeah.
And I guess the third reason is, it was that, like, that I felt like the time was right for this, and there's never been anything like this. And there's just such a good community of like these younger bands, and like, there's so many older bands that don't that have never gotten the recognition that they deserve, just because they like landed in a weird timeline, like
Yeah.
all through like the late 90s through the to like the 2010s when we started. Like, there's just like a plethora of like amazing bands that had just never really gotten the recognition that they deserve, just because nobody was really into it. And
Yeah.
I was, and I was there, and I had seen all these shows, and like, really underattended, but like amazing acts and bands and stuff. And, I just figured like, now's the time where people could see this, and they can get like get their eyes on this stuff that they may have missed. And like, case in point, like, Scott and Astro Bright, but also Love's Lies Crushing, like,
Yeah.
was so important to me, like, growing up. Like, these are the kind of those Love Lies records were like pivotal in everything I've done. And also just like soundtracked like some like really hard times in my life and stuff. So like, you know, being able to watch like 1,500 kids, like, there's literally teenagers at the festival and stuff, which is just like so
Yeah.
beautiful to me. And like watching like a room full of like 1,500 kids like locked in watching a Love Lies Crushing set, like
Yeah.
just like zoned out, like no phones out, like everybody just like fucking
Everyone's
just
on it.
just just locked in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
and to me, like when I seen that, like, was when I know that I did something right for once. I was like, I
Yeah.
fucking I think I might have even said it that night when nothing played. I was like, like the course of the history of nothing has just been like littered with like L's, like just taking L's this way
Yeah.
and that, and that night that was a W for me,
Yeah.
and I for once I'm just gonna accept it, like that I did good once, and
Yeah.
it was a really special time, and then LA was really special as well, and like,
Yeah.
so now I have like, now I like when I'm like sick in the head when it comes to this kind of shit. Like, once I see like something like that, like I go crazy. So like now I'm already like looking about next year and things, and
Yeah.
doubling the size of the rooms I'm trying to do, and bring in some even crazier stuff now that
Yeah.
someone is going to give me some money to do it and trust in me,
Yeah.
So
No, that's amazing. And I mean, even kind of going back to that, like the first time I heard Blow Eyelash Wish, like this was even before I knew of nothing. This is even before I listened to My Bloody Valentine. I just remember someone posting the album cover and posting like a 15-second clip and being like, this thing changed my life. And hearing it and like you get into it, like it's such a like it's all encompassing. It's very like
yeah.
exactly. It kind of envelops you, and I can't imagine like seeing that live would be insane. That'd be so cool. But
Yeah, I definitely want
yeah,
to get that. I want to get them out again for sure. But it's also just cool seeing since then, like now, like, like you see like Ringo Death Stars doing a tour, and
yeah,
like it's finally like they're another band that like we've been like shoulder to shoulder with like through the past decade, and like you know, they're like ridiculously good live,
Yeah.
and they always have been. And like we just like watching them play in like underattended rooms for so long, and now like
Yeah.
starting to see even them and like, you know, like doing well, and Astrobright's going out with them and stuff. And it's just like, for me, it's like I'm not taking responsibility for this
Yeah.
at all,
Yeah.
but like, you know, like what we're doing is helping move everybody along, which is like what I
Yeah.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
When we started, we didn't have that, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody gave a shit about what we were doing. Nobody cared to help, you know. Like I
Mm.
reached out to like a ton of like, you know, a ton of people whenever they were around, and try to get nothing to do shows with them and stuff, and I never got any kind of love back from anybody. So like I just
Yeah.
really wanted to be the opposite of that, you know. I wanted to create a
Yeah.
community where everybody can be under one roof and like live harmoniously. So like it's cool to see that it's like
Yeah.
actually for once something's worked out for me. So
Yeah. You're building this scene sort of from the ground up, from like that ground floor. That's crazy. That's insane. That like, because
yeah.
like again, it's one of those things where it's like I like just the people that I know have known these bands and talked about them for a bit, but then you kind of forget that that's not the general consensus and that there isn't an appreciation for a lot of these people. And then getting that
Yeah.
out there is like such a difficult thing to do.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I emailed Scott off of Bandcamp. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't know if I was gonna get. I emailed him about Love Lies, and he emailed me back like the next day and was just like, "Are you joking
Yeah.
me? Like, no one's ever asked for this." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, that's crazy. We're gonna change that." You know, like
That's
so.
that's so cool. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
he's near the top of my list of people that I want to try to get on air, that I want to interview. I want to talk to him. I want to pick that guy's brain. Like especially with just his instrumentation. Like I'm trying to remember there's this video, it's on YouTube of him he's on like public access TV in the 90s doing like soundscapes and stuff live and like having all this stuff. It's so cool. Like imagine like just being that guy doing that stuff before anyone else. It's
yeah. I
such a
mean,
cool thing to do.
he's a sick individual for sure. Like
Yeah.
me, I like and like I love him, man. It was like we'd known each other for so long. Like
Yeah. Same
just like
wavelengths.
calls me and talks about weird stuff what he's doing, and I'm like, man, you're crazy as hell, bro. Like he's like, I have my guitar set up where each string comes out of a different amplifier, and I was
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah, I saw that on his Instagram with like the hexaphonic pickup thing. That was
yeah.
insane. He's like,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
just like, I'm like, yo, you're way beyond my realm of understanding. Like I get
Yeah.
it, man, but like I'm still like I've had the same pedal board for like 8 years now. So
Yeah, I feel that. The pedal board thing. Like pedals are too expensive. You pick your five pedals, then you just gotta live with it.
yeah, I learned that pretty early on. I was like, you know, when we first started, I had like this massive board, and then like
Yeah.
once I started touring regularly, I was like, fuck all that. I was like, give me like
Yeah.
six good pedals and something I could fit in a suitcase, and
Yeah.
that's it, you know?
Kind of, I mean, this is kind of off topic, but I do want to ask about this. I know you guys have done collab pedals before with Jupiter Effects. I'm a big Jupiter Effects fan. I got a Jive on my board and that thing's fantastic. But like how did
Okay,
that come
cool.
about? How did you get into contact with what's his name? Chris Warla, right?
Yeah, Chris. He's just a real good dude.
Yeah.
I met him at a show in Germany, and he just brought me a pedal, and he's like, here, take this, like, fuck
Yeah.
around with it, let me know what you
That's
think.
yeah.
And that's kind of
That's
just how it happened. And um, it's crazy that like you get to that point where people would actually do that to you, because I'm still like
yeah.
kind of taken back by that, but like it happens pretty often.
Yeah.
And I feel
No.
like kind of responsible, like to do stuff with it. And like I said, I'm like, you know, some of the stuff that I get, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing with this. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, you got the wrong guy. You know, but like, um, you know, with Chris, he was like, it's heavy distortion, so like that I
Yeah.
know well, and he was like, you know, we just did a clone of his like muff thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did like a small tweak on it, like had like a booster on it, and yeah, like,
Yeah.
and Chris just pumped out like 100 or a couple hundred of them or something, and threw some nothing sigils on there, and Uh,
Yeah.
Now I have like four of them, and it's like my favorite distortion I have. Like
Yeah.
it like I had like I've gone through a lot of distortions in the past, but like that like I'm
Yeah.
pretty stuck on those. I'm stuck on that tone. I love it.
Yeah. No, Big Muff's fantastic. I finally got one for the first time a couple months ago and have not gone back. The thing is never leaving. But
Yeah.
yeah, going back a little bit, obviously you did Slide Away, but then last December, right, December 1st, you guys released another album. Like you've been doing a lot of stuff, but I kind of want to talk about this album. So for those for those listening at home, I guess it's called When No Birds Sang, and it's a double album, well not double album, a collab album between you guys and Full of Hell. So I
Mhm.
just want to ask about because this like it's if you were coming to Nothing's discography for the first time and you hear like my introduction was The Great Dismal, and that's a pretty like that's one of my favorites, the records of all time. Famine
Thank you.
Asylum is one of the best things ever to me. And
Thank you.
then
That's nice.
yeah. And I mean like Tired of Tomorrow is fantastic. Guilty of Everything just turned 10. I mean like again, these are things that like been around for a bit and they have a sound. And then you get to When No Birds Sang and it just kind of it's different. It's a different vibe. It's a very different vibe.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting getting that together with those guys. We're good friends with them, and
Yeah.
they've kind of been on the same trajectory as us for like the same amount of time. They started right around the same time. We've bumped heads like over the course of the years, and like never really did anything. Played some shows together early on, like some punk shows. You know, in the early days, like nothing really didn't have like a home as far as like genre wise. So like
Yeah.
you know, we gravitated towards what we know, which was like punk and hardcore stuff. So like a lot of the early Nothing shows were, you know, with like crazy lineups, like, you know, like bands like Power Trip and stuff like
Yeah.
that, you know, Ceremony, you know, like so Full of Hell was someone we were just like kind of moving along with linearly. And you know, they always do collabs and they've been asking us for a while, and it's something I'm not like super fond to doing like
Yeah.
collab stuff, but
Yeah.
with them it made sense. And um we just talked it out, and we kind of just like met up in their hometown in Ocean City,
Yeah.
Maryland, which is a pretty strange place to be. You know, like they're like back road Ocean City, Maryland, like, you know, like I don't want to say carnies, but like they got like they like where they live is that kind of vibe,
Yeah.
which is cool to me, you know, like uh I gravitate towards that type of energy, you know what I mean? Like it's authentic to me, and like it's relatable from where I'm from, you know, like just it's a different speed, but it's kind of the same thing. So I mean, we locked in immediately, and like we became really good friends. And when we went down there to record, we did some demos. It, like just happened super naturally.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't really a plan in place, and things just developed like organically.
Yeah.
And it was like a nice mixture of like heavy and soft. And
Yeah.
yeah, then we just decided to record it, and you know, and that was that, I guess.
Yeah. That's super cool. Like again, this one's just an interesting one. I remember I think was it on? It might have been on Twitter when someone like went through and kind of pointed out all the different references in the cover art and all that stuff. Like that, all that stuff is so cool and like kind of I definitely enhanced it. I remember I played like Stars in the Firmament for like when it first came out when it came out as a single. We played that on air and we were getting like I got texts from people and they're like, "What is this? Like who did this?" kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
it was a lot of it was cool to hear like people's reactions to it. And I mean, it's just
yeah,
yeah. It's a very much
yeah. I
a
mean,
vibe change.
yeah, I mean, it was cool to shake off
Yeah,
some dust. And you know, we hadn't done anything with Nothing for a little while, and
yeah,
I always wanted to do heavier. You know, I love heavy music, so like it was like a good way for me to be able to like get to do that. You know, a lot of people look at that like Nothing did the quiet, soft stuff, and Full of Hell did the heavy stuff. But it really wasn't like that. Like, it was like a full
Yeah,
collaborative effort. Like, like they wrote a lot of the soft stuff and we wrote a lot of the heavy stuff.
yeah,
And when we got down to like recording, getting ready to record vocals, like there needed to be a plan in place. And me and Dylan, we write very differently.
yeah,
So I was like, this could turn out and be weird if it's not realized the right way. So I was like, we should
yeah,
have like a topic where we can write from a joint level, so we're writing around the same thing and stuff. So I kind of came up with the idea of writing about like the falling man from 9/11,
yeah,
and kind of like a fictitious day of him like kind of waking up in the morning and like saying goodbye to his family and getting ready to go and work. I guess they thought it was they were pretty sure that it was this guy John Briley who was a cook at the restaurant, Windows of the World restaurant, at the
hmm,
World Trade Tower. So it's a little dark, but like it's
yeah,
reality, and
yeah,
like it's a fictitious look at like the day in the life, and it's kind of more about like the spontaneity of like life, and like kind of the absurd
yeah,
turns that can happen at the you know, and just how like someone's simple life could be like so totally turned upside down in 1 second, where you're faced in this decision where it's like, am I going to burn to death or am I going to throw myself out of like a 120-story building?
yeah.
Like it
Like that
like
impossible decision.
yeah, and that to me was like striking enough to write this record about. So like
Yeah,
like I said, once I start getting into stuff like this, I'm like, I can't stop. So like my house was literally kind of insane for a while. Like there was just all this 9/11 footage on my TV at all time on
yeah,
YouTube, and like started ordering like stuff from the restaurant that was like on eBay, like match packs and plates
yeah.
and stuff. Like
I'm like getting into it.
um,
Yeah,
yeah, like and then when we got to the lyrical side of things, I just like put in so many details of like the what I could find, and like the art and everything was like I think like people probably have no idea how intricate it is, but like
oh
there's
yeah,
not like a single thing in there that's not like a reference to
oh
something.
yeah,
So it to me like that's like one of those things that I do, that like I spend a lot of my put a lot of myself and my time into it, and not a lot of the time like people really fully comprehend what I did,
yeah.
and that's fine with me. It's
No,
for
yeah,
me, it's like how I operate, and it to
yeah.
me like looking at it at the end is like what the biggest reward. It's like
Oh yeah,
and I was really happy with everything. That was probably my like favorite like pull the toe like package, and uh everything
yeah.
enveloped in it was like probably my favorite thing I've done at
That's
this
so
point.
cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, again, that's one of those things where it doesn't hit you when you first look at it. And then I saw that thread and I started like looking into it more. And like you said, like nearly everything is related in some way, from the
Hmm.
stripes, the smoke coming off of it, the packaging. Like, if I don't have the vinyl for this one, yeah, but I mean, I want to get it eventually, just
Oh, you
for
should
that
get it.
reason. For that reason, yeah, plug that. But I mean, just for that reason alone, just like the packaging's so cool. I mean, I don't know if you know the band Boards of Canada at all.
No, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, big fan. But
Yeah, I love
the
that band.
yeah, Geogotti. I mean, it kind of makes me think of that with all the little references to a different number, like 666 being in there with not only I mean the track length, obviously, with Magic Window at the end there, but
Hmm.
someone was telling me this, and like first time I heard it blew my mind, that the digital version is like 666 like kilobytes or megabytes, something like that. Like
Wow.
everything, it just all comes together. And like things like that, I'm a very firm believer in the format that the music comes in is part of that process. It's part of your experience listening to it. Like spot streaming is nice, it's convenient, but you don't get the feeling. There's nothing like I mean, Godspeed You Black Emperor with Yankee UXO. The packaging for that is such an integral part
Yeah,
to that
absolutely.
experience, and you
Yeah, I
don't
mean
have
that's the kind of stuff I look to like when I'm doing stuff, and it's like the bar is raised super high for a lot of that stuff, and like there's nothing I respect more when people like dump
yeah,
themselves into a release like that and think about every detail. So like
yeah,
for me it's super important.
Yeah,
And I try to do that with everything, whether it goes noticed or not. You know what I mean? It's just like I've set this bar for myself now,
yeah.
and
That's
that's kind of how I look at it.
That's so cool. Kind of going back. You say when you're recording this, if you're writing it from a slightly different angle than you normally would, or that you have two bands coming together, you write from different angles. But how do you normally write then? Like if you're recording, like does it change per album? Like putting together, Guilty of Everything or whatever. Was that a different process than the Great Dismal? Like how do those come together? How do you write songs? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Where I'm trying to get at.
I mean, they all came together in different ways, I guess,
Yeah.
because of the personnel on them. But like typically with me, it starts at home with an acoustic guitar. I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
pretty
Okay.
pretty old school when it comes to that. I tried it on Dismal. I tried to kind of do it in other ways and start with bass and rhythm section stuff, and that's kind of how I came up with like Bernie Sanders and stuff.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I want to test myself and like kind of push myself in the different directions. I don't want to just keep putting the same record out all the time. So like,
Yeah.
but I am a I like playing guitar and writing songs that way. And a lot of the times, it's my voice memos are just like if I die, someone should pull them out because there's probably like 2,000 voice
Oh
memos in there
wow.
at this
Yeah.
point with just like stuff that I started that way.
Hmm.
But it's good, like having Doyle around now, and Doyle's like is like a fixture and nothing at this point. And like we didn't really get to do too much together on Dismal. The one song that we did together was Catch a Fade, which
Okay.
was originally a Doyle demo, and
Okay.
I kind of just deconstructed it and rebuilt it again. And to me, that song is like a really like it's a really nice look into like what me and him could do in the future. So like I'm excited to like sit down with him and write again and kind of put Dismal on my back
Yeah.
because it just like with like Brandon leaving and being the first record in a while without like someone like a partner like that.
Mm.
I felt like I needed to put everything on my own shoulders for that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to rely on too many other people for it, just so like it
Mm.
was like evident that like my role is in nothing.
Yeah.
But now I'm ready to be in like a band again.
Yeah.
Like I want to write music with people, and we've enlisted Bob Bruno, who played in Best Coast for a while, played bass in Best Coast. He's
Okay.
been like a long friend,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and he's playing with us now. And he's just got like he comes from music in such a different place than us, and he's like also just like he's like a super gearhead, which is
Yeah. Oh
cool
yeah.
for us. Um, and he's just a homie. And then
Yeah.
Zach Jones, who's playing drums with us now, he's like I mean, he plays drums for the Body,
Mm.
and he plays in this other group called MSC, which is like pretty electronic, like
Yeah.
heavy electronic, like borderline like rave. He probably would have a different way to say it.
Yeah.
But we I like having these different aspects for this group because I definitely want to kind of go towards different angles when I approach the next record for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm
That's
kind of
so
set up
yeah.
for it at this point to kind
Yeah.
of to go wide with things.
You're
So
putting
we'll
yourself in
see
a
what
good position
happens.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. So I have really more, I guess, two more questions or two more big ones and kind of see where we go from there. The one is a very dumb question, but it's one that I've wondered for a bit. And it's there's a promotional photo that I think was for the 4 year anniversary of Dismal, and it's you guys and someone has on like the plate carrier jacket with the pedals on it. And I can't find anything else about that. And I love that photo so much. Like it's such a cool
Yeah.
picture.
Well, it's supposed to be like a suicide bomber.
Yeah.
Uh, And my friend Ben, who took the photos, was like so nervous about me posting it, and he like wouldn't send me the real ones. I was like, come on, like I get it, but I was
Yeah.
also, like I kind of tote the line on, like I don't want to say I'm like like the edge lord type
Yeah.
behavior because I don't see it that way. I just kind of like to do what I do, and
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool idea to kind of have
Yeah.
this. I made this vest out of like I ordered a vest from Amazon, and then I hooked all the pedals to it to kind of just
Yeah.
look like old school suicide bomber vest. But
Yeah.
he wasn't happy with it, so we just never did anything. And now like it just seems like excessive at this point with everything that's going on in this world. So like I don't know if I'll ever.
We'll make a comeback.
Maybe one
Yeah.
day I'll wear it for a tour or something.
Maybe. Yeah.
But
But no,
yeah, I
I
had
saw
it
that.
working and everything,
Oh,
like it
wait, it
was like,
worked. Oh, I didn't realize it was even
yeah,
like
like
plugged into anything. I thought
I
it was just
was
for the
I was
photo.
I was hooked up to a one spot,
Okay, like a daisy chain one?
yeah, and we
Yeah.
had it plugged into like a generator so that the lights would be up all over it and stuff. So,
Yeah. That's so
but
cool. That's
but
sick.
I got told no. That
Got
happens
told off
that
now.
happens a lot. So
Yeah. I guess I didn't even think to ask this, but I've wanted to know this for a bit too. Where did the your album covers? I feel like that's kind of one of like I mean, you talked about before, that's a pretty integral part to the experience. But there's a lot of pretty striking imagery, I'd say, in what you guys do.
mhm.
Like the mask for Dance on the Blacktop, the painting of the roof for Tired of Tomorrow, and then just the guy for Dismal's like
Mhm.
just every single one has a vibe to it. And I like what goes into that process. Is it you putting all the effort into or like put thinking it through beforehand or just like coming up with something? What how does that come about?
um I mean, it usually starts with words for me.
Yeah.
um I'm like a you know I come up with like a concept or a title for a record, and it kind of spawns from that. Typically, I think the only one that really didn't do that was like the roof one, which was tired. Which I was just trying to do something really insane.
Yeah.
And we painted that roof like that. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't know that that's like actually painted on the roof.
Yeah.
But we
Where
did
where
that illegally in Brooklyn. Um,
Oh wait, so that's in
we had
Brooklyn. Okay.
Yeah, it's on
And
uh I fucking what's the name of the street? I forget. I'll try to shoot you a message what it is, the address. But we had my friend, actually Brandon lived in the building, and they had
okay.
roof access. So like, but then it gave us access to all the roofs on the block. So we went in there. We went up there at like 5 a.m. With like 15 gallons of pink bucket paint,
Yeah.
and me, him, and Kyle Kimball, the previous drummer. And we painted these letters. I did like outlines of them first. So each letter is 25 by 25 foot.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
So
Holy.
like
Yeah.
it was massive, and
Massive.
there's a lot of letters in Tired
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
I mean, I'm just pulling it up now, and in my mind, I just always assumed that it was in Philly, but that's crazy.
Yeah, it's
That's
I can't remember which street it is actually.
that's fine. I mean, I'm just looking at the cover now. I didn't realize how large they were. That's
Yeah,
insane.
20
25 by
each one
25
is,
is that's
yeah.
insane. I would assume you'd need more than what 15 buckets. That's crazy.
Yeah, it got to the point after we did like the rollouts, like I
Yeah.
outlined each letter, and then like Brandon and Kyle would fill it in, and they were just dumping the bucket paint on the ground and then just like using the rollers, like with,
Yeah, and just pushing it out. Yeah. That's so
Stockholm,
cool. Yeah.
187 Stockholm Street.
Good to know. We'll make a I'll make a pilgrimage over there one day, I guess.
Yeah, well,
But
we when we did the 5 year, we reshot the roof, and
yeah.
there's like just barely any remnants of it anymore. It like all
Wow.
got painted over basically, which is so pretty much just like everything I do
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Just
But it's
slowly
there.
disintegrates
It's
into,
recorded though. It's there. It's there
yeah,
for those who are looking for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still find pink bucket paint like on like clothes and stuff. Like I
Yeah.
have shirts that still have it on there. It's fucking
That's so
crazy.
cool. So I guess I got one last question for you, and then I'll let you go. But I want to know what are you listening to? What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you taking in right now?
Oh wow. Um. Well, I've to be honest, I've been listening to like a lot of Eagles and Bjork lately. I don't know
Okay.
why.
Yeah.
I got into this Eagles kick like a couple months ago again. It's like it happens every few years where like I go back and I like watch some old live videos from Eagles and I'm just
Yeah.
like they're just so fucking sick and like
They're
so good and they're
yeah.
all like it's really like I watch it and I'm like I don't even know why I'm a musician. Like I have no zero talent at all.
No.
But yeah, whenever we go over Bob Bruno's house in LA, he has like this like insanely like massive archive of like old VHS tapes with like live bootleg videos and stuff. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he pulled one out recently and it was like Eagles in like 77 at like the Hollywood at the Rose Bowl stadium.
Yeah.
Um
Okay.
and it's just like this insane fucking concert. So since then, I've just been listening to Eagles like a weirdo. But and then same thing, we watched the video from like 2000 of Bjork, like right. I think it was maybe it was earlier. It was like right around Vespertine time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forget what year that is, but we watched like these live shows that she did at like Opera Hall. And like it's just like for me, I just like locked into that record again, and I've just been listening to that like nonstop lately. So I think
Yeah.
I'm definitely like listening to that like with the like thoughts of like what I want to do next, and like
Yeah.
been back into that again.
That's so cool.
But as
Yeah.
far as shit, I watch everything that's on TV, like literally anything that comes out. Like I'm just like a garbage disposal for shit on TV at this point. So there's some good, some bad, but mostly bad, I think.
Yeah. I get that. I get that feeling.
I recently just watched I went back and watched the show that The Terror. Um
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and that was probably about as good as it can get for me for film. Uh incredible
Yeah.
show.
That is a good
That
one. That's a really good one.
there's another one that's like kind of similar in vibe, but I watched them like back to back as the Northwater too.
Okay. I see. I've
It's like
heard of the
very
tear, but not that one.
the Northwater is like got Colin Farrell in it, and
Okay.
it's like very like Celine, like Journey to the End of the Night, like just packed with like the most vicious side of humanity that you could ever like fathom. Just like like locked into a boat at sea, for where they're like a bunch of whalers from like the early night like early 1900s.
Yeah.
So it's pretty intense. It's a
Yeah.
pretty heavy show. So
Yeah.
I would check that out.
I
North
will check
Waters.
that. That sounds exactly like what I would watch. That's very much up my alley. But
Yeah,
yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate this. This is I mean I have a list. I've had a list going for a bit of people that I want to talk to, and I've had you guys up towards the top since day one. I mean, you guys incredibly formative for me in what I listen to and what I play. Like a lot of it kind of works back to you guys. A lot of it works back to Love Lies Crushing. So really, it's like this is what I'm into. This is these are like my people kind of thing. Like I really
great,
appreciate you
great.
doing this.
Yeah, man. And sorry again, I've missed it 2 days in a row.
Nah, don't worry
Just like
about it. I'm glad I
kind
got
of
to.
basically an idiot most of the time. So
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. I really appreciate that it worked out, but I completely understand where you're coming from with that.
cool, man. Well, thanks so much for your time. I hope
Well,
that
no,
this
thank
wasn't
you. Yeah.
terrible.
No, thank you. This has been great. I'll let you know. I'll email you when it's up. We'll probably air it on air and then put it up on the website at the same time. So it's like archived because yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll let you know. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. All right. Yeah. Take care. Bye bye.
Yeah.